gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's January the 11th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented by LifeWallet, where the time is now, whenever you can, to take charge of your personal health. And sometimes it's just not possible. I think I'm going on about day 14 or something of this crazy cold that I've got, Matt. But going to power through once again because we've got some interesting news of the day to talk about, as always. And today, our hit or miss series, the CaneSport on 3 hit or miss series, kicks off with an analysis of the 2017 recruiting class. And hit or miss, Matt, I know I'm not going to be calling this class a hit. I'll tell you that. Now, for the purposes of this series, we are defining a hit as recruits emerging as 2-year starters, okay? So if you started at least 2 years, you're a hit. If you didn't make the starting lineup, you're a miss, okay? So as this relates to 2017, in that class, Matt, there were 9 hits and 14 misses. And we could talk about some of them, but that's a 39.1% rate to have any chance at all to compete for any kind of championships whatsoever. The experts have determined that you have to be around a 60% success rate. So this project is your baby. You've kind of brought it to birth. So tell us a little bit of your impressions of 2017.
I mean, listening to you introduce that first year of the series is like it's like James Williams wrapping up a tackle. It was just you just missed. Okay, sorry, James. Maybe when your injury is better, you'll be able to wrap up.
Cheap shot, didn't you?
James Williams
fans, you couldn't just stay on topic.
James Williams fans are going to hate me.
You got to throw James Williams.
I am trying my best to get off this show. I'm trying to get people to be upset. I've got somebody finally called me an a-hole. I've been waiting on that. A couple other people are starting to finally realize that
I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah. Believe me, I didn't delete it. If anything, I liked it. I think I hit the up button on that one. And then a couple people said I'm super annoying. Like, I'm trying my best to get off this show. The James Williams comment, that's my last attempt to get off this morning show and sleep in. Like, I need my sleep. You wonder why you're sick for 2 weeks, Gary? It's because you don't sleep. Anyway, the miss that you have introducing this series is obvious. This is the 2017 recruiting class we began with. It has nothing to do with the product we saw on the field last year, or does it? The reason I started this in 2017 is essentially because I wanted to establish a pattern. And the pattern being this, which is something that I didn't really think about until I started doing the series. 2017 had nothing to do with the talent Mario Cristobal inherited. There wasn't a single player from 2017 that played for him last year. But as you go through these 20 years of failures, 2017 was an epitome of the cycle of failure in the sense that these are players who didn't start for more than 1 year. These are players where 12 of 23, I think it was, transferred out. That's almost the hit rate you want in terms of players starting 2 years or guys that left in this class. And what that means is it affected, believe it or not, the players Mario Cristobal inherited, because when you have this happen year after year after year, you're not doing what a Georgia does, which is getting a top guy in recruiting, developing him for a year or two behind another starter who's starting for a year or two. Then that guy starts for a year or two and he's gone to the NFL or whatever the case may be. Someone else is better behind him. That's another 4 or 5 star. You're not getting that cycle. Once Miami gets that cycle going, it's basically it's like a bicycle. It just keeps on going and going and going and going. It's very hard to restart that cycle. Mario Cristobal is trying to do it, but as we go through every single class from 2017, 18, 19, 20, and 21, we're going to look at all 5 of them. I'm going to do your spoiler alert now. None of them are over 50% hit rate. Almost all of them have a ridiculous amount of transfers out of the program, or guys that just didn't have an impact whatsoever. Whether you want to call them hits just because they started 2 years, they still weren't any good. The cycle has never been there. So for Mario Cristobal to have come in last year, and we'll do a wrap up at the end of the whole series, but essentially for Mario Cristobal to have come in last year, and for anybody in their right mind to have expected 10 wins, it was improbable. And if I had done this analysis prior to last season, I don't think I even would have predicted 8 or 9 wins. Because as I went through all these players and the cycle that Miami's been in for these 5 years preceding even the 2022 class, it was to the point that nobody had a chance to get developed at all in an off-season weight program because they're playing. You have to remember, guys out there, if you're just watching games on Saturdays, you don't realize guys who aren't playing on Saturdays have a different program during the week the entire fall than guys who are playing on Saturday. You play on Saturday, you're in recovery Sunday and Monday, and you're back at practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, and doing walkthroughs on Thursday and Friday. That's your schedule. Guys who are redshirting are in the weight room. They are bulking up. They are on nutrition programs. They have explicit instructions. Here's what you need to do over these next 4 months, 5 months, so you can be at this level by the time spring practice starts. Guys who play right away can't do that. When you're in the cycle Miami's been in, nobody gets to do that. And I know every freshman comes in and wants to play right away, but in reality, a lot of these freshmen, the vast majority of them, are much better off redshirting, playing as minor, 3-4 games, right? In a minor role. Even if they play 8 or 9 games as third team, second team guys sometimes, you can still put them in the program. If they're playing 10, 15 reps a game, they're not in recovery on Sunday. They're still in the weight program. Miami has not had the luxury of doing that. Miami's in a vicious cycle of failure. And the only way to break that is in recruiting and developing. You can't do it with the portal. And it's never more clear than this series, because there's going to be a year in this series where you're going to see 9 transfer guys come in, and 4 of them were really good. Bubba Bolden, I don't have it in front of me, but it was Bubba Bolden, Jose Borregales. There was a couple more in that class. Do you remember who they were, Gary? Whoever they were. 4 of them were hits. But as you look at that, and we'll talk about that more
I think was that class.
Maybe
right?
that year, yeah. I think it was. Well, yes, but I think he played the following year. He was here 2 years. But anyway, the point is, even though 4 of those transfers worked out and whatever 5 of them didn't, okay, even those 4, was it worth taking them to win 8 or 9 games? They didn't win 10 games with those guys. Or would it have been better, even though Jalen Phillips was a first-round draft pick, even though Jose Borregales won the Groza Award? As great as those guys were, you didn't win 10 games. Would it have been better now, in this situation that Miami's in, to have taken a 4-star or 5-star if you're a great recruiter like Mario, and let them redshirt for a year and get them ready to play as a 2-year starter at Miami instead of a one and done, which these guys all were.
Yeah.
So it's a fine balance that you have to line. And that's why I like these 1-year guys that Miami's taking right now in the portal, just to fill in, because now you could fill in with 2024 recruits. You're not going to be at 85 anyway. You got to balance your classes a little bit, in that sense. You could take 25, 30 freshmen for the next couple of cycles. But these are the trade-offs Miami has to make. We're going to lay it. I've been talking way too long. But we're going to make it very clear to everybody.
No, you're doing fine, because
how bad this was, and how Mario maybe should have seen it coming and not taken that many transfers last year, because this is the cycle we're in. Transfers because we're not ready. Transfers because guys can't play. Transfers because we're losing games. But the transfers are part of the problem. Transfers are part of the cycle where you're not getting multi-year starters.
But they should have won 8 games last year, and that's a big difference than 5.
If they could have won 8 games, they should have taken every transfer. If they could have won 8 games, Gary, they should have taken every transfer out there then. Can you imagine how great it would have been if they won 8 games?
Look, you and I never disagree on transfer portal, so I'm not going to even go there right now. But I'm going to tell you this, okay? And this is not a series on the site or anything, but that national championship game was so scintillating that I started doing my own research on different things during the game, because the game, you couldn't watch it, okay? So I looked at Georgia. I'm like, can Georgia possibly be this good? Well, between 2018 and 2023, this was the ranking of their recruiting classes. Number 1, number 2, number 1, number 3, number 3, number 2. Okay? They're that good, okay? and they don't go in the transfer portal because they have so much talent that they have been developing in their pipeline on their team. There is nothing that they can go get in the transfer portal that makes any sense for them. That's how well that program has been performing over the last 5 years or so. Miami, and keep in mind, this is before you even get to this hit or miss that Matt very competently is bringing to the table this week.
Wow, thank you.
Listen, I looked at the YouTube comments. You're right. I didn't say anybody calling you an a-hole, but you took some shots, man. Like there was.
Told you, people hate me. I don't know why you still make me come on the show.
No,
People
they typically love you. But Matt Maros says, "Well, I do appreciate the content. I often feel that if someone handed Matt a crisp $100 bill, he would complain about it."
Damn
and
right,
Matt, you're right. He does complain about it. Whenever I give him crisp hundreds,
because if you give someone $100,
why they're not thousands?
No, I don't want a $100 bill. Period. Because A, they got to do the whole thing with the marker to make sure it's real. B, you got to get change. Who uses actual money anymore? If you see me, do not give me a $100 bill. You can Venmo me $100. If you Venmo me $100, I will not complain. You hand me a $100 bill, I'm gonna be like, no, I take Venmo. If you're in fantasy football, do you tell your friends, come over with your $62.39 you owe the league, or do you say Venmo me $62.39? Don't hand me a crisp bill. Don't hand me a wrinkled bill. I don't want your bills. I want your Venmo and virtual money.
All right. So anyway, this is before you get to Matt's hit or miss, okay? In 2018, while Georgia was number 1, Miami was number 12. In 2019, while Georgia was number 2, Miami was number 30. In 2020, while Georgia was number 1, Miami was number 17. In 2021, while Georgia was number 3, Miami was number 10. In 2022, while Georgia was number 3, Miami was number 14. Okay. Now, keep in mind, if Georgia's playing hit or miss, and Matt hasn't done the compilation, I assure you that their hit or miss rate is pretty high. It's definitely over 60%. Okay. That's before you even get to hit or miss. And you're seeing here already in year 1 of this exercise that Matt undertook, that the hit rate is just absolutely abysmal, and 39.1%. And therefore, even though you had the free year because of COVID, this class had zero direct impact on certainly not on last season, for sure. But
it did. I'm trying to explain to you why. I literally just spent.
But it had a negative impact.
Oh yeah, you said no impact. Yes, it had.
I meant positive impact.
Even though nobody on the team was on last year's team, it had a negative impact on the team. Yeah, which is weird, but it's true.
Yeah. So I think you guys will find that story interesting, and encourage you to take a look at that. All right, another story on the website today is this is actually pretty funny. We have our CaneSport 30 for 30 ranking the top 30 Canes with 30 or more reps of experience. And today we are on number 23. And we apologize for this because
this has never happened in CaneSport history.
Yeah, this is not the way you're supposed to.
So embarrassing.
You're not supposed to do a ranking, okay? But we're gonna be truthful, and we're gonna say that we did this ranking of the top 30 before Branson Dean joined the roster yesterday.
Well, it didn't matter if you did the ranking or not. You already started the ranking, Gary. So Branson Dean was coming in anyway.
But Branson Dean deserved to be, off of his couple years of starting at Purdue, he deserved to be in this 30 for 30 ranking of the top 30 Canes with 30 more reps of experience. So we had to put him in somewhere, which means that we were going to have to create a tie. We chose the number 23 spot, where he shares it with Nigelique Kelly. Yeah. Matt, explain yourself.
I mean, I asked Gary, I said, Tyler Van Dyke does not belong in the top 30. It's obvious Jake Garcia and Jakari are much better than him, but Gary insisted on keeping Tyler Van Dyke in there. He loves Tyler Van Dyke. So we kept Tyler Van Dyke, and now we have a tie. I mean, I don't know what to tell everybody. It's like I'm serious, I think, sometimes. It's I can give you some examples, but I don't know what's wrong with me. I literally, when my children were young and we'd be out in public and they'd misbehave or something, I would turn to them and yell, "Don't make me lock you in the closet again." And people would turn and stare at me. Nowadays, I'm sure that some of the left-leaning people in the world would be calling the police on me, and I'd be in jail somewhere, sleeping in past 5 a.m. quite happily. Mind you, not having to clean up after my kids. I just have my own nice little cell. I got to tell you, a single cell. If you get, do they have single cells in jail? If I get a single cell, maybe in upstate New York, like that might be a little better than what I have with my situation here, waking up at 5 a.m., having fans call me a-hole, tell me how negative I am. I would have a very peaceful existence, probably helping, what do they have up there? Picking apples? What do they pay you? 3 cents an hour if you're an inmate? I'd pick apples during the day. I'd probably get to play some pickup basketball on the courtyard, for the hour break we get to relax in the cell. Don't have to pound stories, bother recruits, call coaches all the time. I mean, that's the life, Gary Ferman. It's actually fairly tempting right now, but nobody ever arrested me for telling my kids. And my kids will tell you, there was not a day that went by that I didn't yell at them, "Don't make me lock you in the closet again." Just for the record, I never did lock them in the closet. I only once locked one of them in the room, but he thought he was locked in. But really, I was just holding the handle, and he wasn't strong enough to open the door. That was when he did something really bad. I think he ate my cookies that day from Levan, so I was very upset about that.
From where?
Well, you never had Levan cookies?
What the hell's Levan?
Oh, well, okay. Levan cookies are ginormous, amazing cookies. They originated in New York. Now they're in D.C. and a couple other places. I think Chicago has
Are
it.
they like crumble?
First of all, but don't buy them in the grocery store. They're disgusting from the grocery store. Okay.
Are they like crumble cookies?
No, they're like this big. They're like the size of a stone crab. I mean, they're enormous. They're amazing. We actually just ordered
crumble
8 of them.
Like this.
You can order them. No, they're big. What I recommend do not do, by the way, do not get a key lime pie shipped to your friends, because I promised my son I would send it to one of his mentors up in college. And I thought it wasn't going to be that much money because the pie is $39.95 if you buy it at Joe's. And to my dismay, once I'd promised him I was going to send it to this person, it was $99 to send a $39 key lime pie upstate in Florida. $99. I'm speechless too. And anyway, that's why I want to be in the penitentiary now. My son can't ask me to send key lime pies to anybody. There's so many reasons to be in jail right now, honestly. And I hope I'm not offending people who've been in jail. Maybe there might be a lot of people watching this that are like, "Jail's terrible. What's he talking about? He's never been in jail." I have not been in jail. I imagine it's not as bad as it probably is, but maybe it is.
Yeah, these things are expensive.
Hey, by the way, you want to hear a story?
These things are $7 a cookie.
Listen to this. I have a friend who was in Rikers Island, okay? In Rikers Island for, I think it was 3 years. And when they put you in Rikers Island, he told me the story. It's crazy. Of course, he was a white-collar criminal, because I don't really associate with murderers that much. But he shows up. Well, he doesn't show up. He gets taken to Rikers Island, and they give him a number. I guess when you get to Rikers, they give you a number, and you don't know what it means. And he gets this number, and based on the number, he goes to a certain part of the jail. And so he goes to this part of the jail or whatever. He's there for a week. He actually said it wasn't that bad. He made a lot of friends. He was playing cards every day. Like, everyone was super friendly. And then one day, the bailiff, not the bailiff, one of those people who come, it wasn't a guard, but one of these people who runs the system, I don't know, they came in and they said his name, and they said, "We're transferring you to a different wing." He's like, "Why? I like it here," or whatever, He found out that the number they gave him was wrong, and that he was in the wing with the convicted murderers, and he was supposed to be the white-collar criminals. Apparently, they separate them at Rikers. This was back in the 90s, I think. So yeah, I would definitely, if I'm in upstate New York, picking the apples, I got to be with the white-collar criminals for sure, not the murderers. I would not probably fare well with them. I think they would know right away that this is not the face of a murderer. This is the face of somebody who you can take their crisp $100 bill and buy everything at the commissary you want with it.
All right. Well, I do need to get you back on point here, Nigel E. Kelly.
Isn't that interesting, though? I thought it was interesting.
Oh, yeah, no,
nobody else thinks it's interesting.
It's great, but I do have to ask you, these cookies, these Levain cookies that you're talking about,
Levain.
Levain, yeah, Levain Bakery.
Levain. Can you not say Levain?
All right, whatever. They're $7 a piece.
They're worth it. It's like a meal. It's like a meal replacement. They're amazing. Trust me. Oh, and get the chocolate the chocolate peanut butter, or just the regular chocolate.
$7 a cookie?
You got to order them, Gary. I'm telling you. You can get 8 of those for the same price as a Joe's Key Lime Pie shipped to you. So actually, you could buy 12 of them for the same price. I'd rather have 12 of those than the Joe's Key Lime Pie, personally. They're amazing. They're amazing. But don't order them from Goldbelly. Get them from Levan directly.
Get them from okay.
Yeah, Goldbelly charges like a lot more.
They charge you even more.
Yeah, our fans are really hating this show right now. The fans are like, we get these complaints. Why aren't you talking about football? There's so much news to talk about. And we're talking about jail, Levan cookies. Nobody wants to hear this stuff. And can we just delete like the last 10 minutes and start over? Nobody really wants to hear this.
I mean, we're a couple weeks from the late signing day, and there's nothing going on. Like, there's going to be a few visitors this weekend. I think they've all already signed. Okay, maybe they come up with somebody late. We'll see. I do know they've been working on a few things, but yeah. So like, there's just it's a little quiet right now, which is why we're talking about Matt's restaurant reviews, his cookies.
Oh, I should give you
the desire to go to jail.
You want another restaurant review?
No, not yet.
Right.
We got to get some news of the day in here, okay? Because people are, they only have so much patience for you.
All right.
So listen, Nigel Lee Kelly, number 23. Maybe that's a little low, Matt. I don't know, man. I mean, he didn't get a chance to do a lot last year, but if he's number 23 in October, it's going to be disappointing.
You say a little low? I don't know if you mean a little low or a little high. I mean, I think it's where he belongs. I assume you think he belongs higher than 23, not lower than 23.
I think he better end up higher than 23.
Yeah, you said lower. So the reason he's where he is isn't because of his potential. His potential is top 5. The reason he's where he is because all we know so far is what we've seen. And what we've seen is some flashes here and there, but not that much consistency. He didn't start any games. I think he's going to be really good, but he didn't grade out, in the 80s or anything like that. So it's to be determined. They have Akeem Messidor's back. I think Nigel Lee Kelly will start opposite him. But, I know Gary's not a big Ruben Bain's going to start fan, because I think Ruben Bain will ultimately be a tackle, but I think he will begin at end. And I think Ruben Bain might be more talented right now than any other defensive end on Miami's roster, not named Akeem Messidor. So it's going to be really interesting because I know Mario, they're still in this phase, right, where they can't really redshirt guys behind other guys. Like I'm watching Georgia yesterday. I'm seeing Darnell Washington. Remember Darnell Washington, Gary?
Yeah, that was a great play he made.
Yeah, I mean, guys like that. There was a bunch of guys on that Georgia roster that Miami was in the final 2 or 3 for and didn't get. Ruben Bain's one of those guys that could be at a Georgia, that Georgia would have certainly taken him, right? He's one of those guys you don't say no to anywhere. But at Georgia, he would sit for a couple of years, probably, at least for 1 year. At Miami, they may not have that luxury. And I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. I don't know if Mario Cristobal would say to himself, Ruben Bain's our best defensive end besides Akeem Messidor, but we want to sit him out this year. So like I said, so he's in a different program than what the players are week to week, because that will make him better for year 2. Again, it's this cycle, and you have to make decisions. And Mario has very difficult decisions to make based on what he was left from the series that we're running for the next 5 or 6 days. You guys will all see it. It's remarkable to me, and I've done all the initial research. I haven't typed everything up yet, but it's remarkable to me how few players over the last 5 recruiting classes, not including this last one or the one before it, because the one before it, obviously, we don't have enough sense yet for how good it's going to be. Those other 5, just how weak they were in terms of the personnel they got, who actually stayed, and how they were developed. You don't see guys coming in, redshirting and being great like you do at other programs. You don't see guys coming in and leaving as first-round NFL draft picks after multiple years starting like they do at other programs. Gregory Rousseau, 1 year played at Miami. Jalen Phillips, 1 year played at Miami. Other programs, they're playing as, maybe a true sophomore, true junior gone, maybe as a redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore gone to the NFL, or maybe even playing more than that if they're not going to be a first-round pick. That has not been happening at Miami. And until that happens, until you have this hit rate of 2+ years starters where it just keeps on going, and then the next guy starts for a couple of years and has gone to the NFL, and the next guy starts for a couple of years and gone to the NFL, until you get that, it's going to be very difficult to compete like with Georgia. Can you imagine Miami playing Georgia even next year? I mean, you can't. It's not there yet. Mario Cristobal knows it's not there yet. And like I said at the same time last year, I said I hope he doesn't just try to win 8 or 9 games this year at the sake of being a playoff team in a couple of years. Gary's a big fan. Gary's a big fan of win 8 or 9 now. You don't want to win 5 or 6
next
now.
level and keep losing like this.
You think you can do everything at once? It's very difficult to build through the portal.
You did it.
Some schools can do it and fake it for a year. You can.
They got destroyed.
You can do it. This is what nobody talks about. You can do it. You could be who did it last year? You could be Michigan State.
Be fake. It'll be fake like it was for TCU.
Correct. You can be Michigan State. You can be TCU. You can do it for a year or two, but it's not going to last long term. You cannot live in the transfer portal long term. Those guys are gone. You may hit it for 1 year and get lucky and have a great year, and then those guys are gone, and you're back at square zero. Recruiting, development, the cycle we're talking about, the 60% hit rate. That's the formula. That's the blueprint that Mario talks about. And when he doesn't follow his own blueprint and starts taking transfers like crazy who aren't seniors and gone, I don't love it.
But Branson Dean came out of the transfer portal, and we had to get him into the top 30.
I love Branson Dean. He's here for 1 year. What did I just say? You don't even listen.
Listen.
You're like my children. You know what, Gary? I'm going to lock you in the closet again. Go in the closet.
No, but my point is,
no, you're not going to go in the closet.
Even if he had 2 years left, you're not taking Branson Dean. So, like, there are some quality pieces.
Even if he had 2 years left, you're not taking. I'm not taking Branson Dean.
No, what I'm saying is, you are still taking him.
I want championship level recruits. I don't need above average transfer portal guys. I want free agents that you're stealing from other programs who are starting there, who are above the level of 29 tackles and 4 sacks as mainly a pass rushing defensive tackle. I'm sorry. Okay. I know Branson Dean fans. Look, I talked to the guy. He sounds like a great guy. He's done some really good things at Purdue. I don't need him for 2 or 3 years on the roster. I want 4- and 5-star freshmen who are going to be first-round NFL players. Branson Dean, Gary, do you think he's a first, second, or third-round guy? 6'2", 285? No. So I don't understand why you want him on the roster for 2 or 3 years.
He's a depth filler.
So why do you want him on the roster for 2 or 3 years instead of a 4-star or 5-star?
You need defensive tackle bodies.
Mario Cristobal is a great recruiter. The transfer portal is not the same as recruiting. The transfer portal is go meet John Ruiz, and maybe you can get a deal that's better than somewhere else and come here. That's the transfer portal.
You got to have bodies up front. You can't have practice without them. You can't develop your offensive line without them. I could give you a whole bunch of reasons why they had to take Branson Dean. All right. I do want to hear what restaurant you want to tell us about. But first, we must hear from our friends at Life Wallet.
Hey, Morgan, what are you going to do?
I have to go to practice.
Me too.
Well, don't forget your Life Wallet.
Oh my gosh, I always forget my Life Wallet.
You forget everything.
I can't go anywhere without my Life Wallet.
Life Wallet. Saving time, saving lives.
I got to give Tyler Van Dyke a little shout out. I mean, I thought it was really cool that he flew back early to participate in the recruitment of Matt Lee to be the likely starting center this year. Because let me tell you something, that offensive line, I know Tyler has the great aspirations and everything. How well that offensive line can get between now and September, how good they can get rather, is going to go a long way to the kind of season that he's able to put together. And Matt Lee's worth a lot of money to Tyler Van Dyke. I'm glad he saw that, came in and helped them seal that deal there. All right. I will get to Matt's restaurant because I know that's really important. But a couple other things that are on the website today. We take a look at the guys that were in the All-American Bowl and in the Under Armour game and get some third-party evaluations on how they looked in practices, how they looked in the games. I think you guys will find that very, very interesting. We also do have an analysis on Transfer Portal Linebacker Edition. I'm sure Matt hates this one too. Francisco Mayagoa, who does have more than 1 year of eligibility left. Take that, Matt Shodell. One of the best linebackers in the Pac-12 is coming to Miami through the portal for more than 1 year. And I'm not going to get more angry than that because it'll screw up my cold even worse than what it is. But that right there, and I hope Francisco Mayagoa balls out for the next couple of years and totally disproves your theory that this is a bad thing, because I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. All right, get myself all stirred up here. We also have a story on an IMG guy that I think is going to figure very prominently in Miami's recruiting this year. That's 5-star cornerback Ellis Robinson, the fourth. He's also considering Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and Colorado. Miami is in the top 5. Says he loves the culture, loves the way the programs run, loves the way the staff is all about business. Miami's in the heat of this one. It's a long way from a conclusion, but Miami looks like when you factor in the IMG presence in this year's recruiting class, I think they got a great chance, Matt, to get Ellis Robinson the fourth. Before you give us your restaurant review, your thoughts.
To say they have a great chance of getting anybody right now, you see guys committing to Louisville that aren't going to wind up at Louisville. I mean, guys committing to Ohio State. These are obviously, everyone knows who these guys are. But nothing matters right now. Recruiting hasn't even started. To say that there's a great chance with Ellis Robinson the fourth, I think there's just as good a chance with Ellis Robinson the third, the second, the fifth, and the sixth. You just don't know, man. There's so many variables in recruiting right now that it's impossible to say where any of these guys are going to wind up. All I know, and this I know, Mario Cristobal will have a top 10 class and probably a top 5 class because that's what Mario Cristobal does. And that's all that matters.
All right, fair enough. All right, so before we go, what's your restaurant?
Oh, everybody's still tuned in for the restaurant review, right? All right, I'm very excited about this. I actually am more excited about doing restaurant reviews than talking about the Miami Hurricanes because Miami Hurricanes have not been great for 20 years, and my food eating experiences have actually been decent.
If they had been better, we might even be able to afford the $10 cookies that you're pushing on us.
You know what? I should open my own restaurant and name every dish after a Miami Hurricanes player, and based on how they do that week, either make the dish really, really good or really awful, I'll have the Don Chaney. And if he had like 100 yards, it'll be like foie gras. And if he had like 4 yards and a fumble, it'll be like a dirt cup where it's actual dirt, something like that. Anyway, so the restaurant that I'm reviewing today is one of my wife's favorite. And the reason it's one of my wife's favorite is because she's secretly in love with the chef. It's a true story, unfortunately. This guy, Giorgio, I don't know his last name. I probably couldn't pronounce it anyway. He's from some other country. But he opened a restaurant called Luca, which, Gary, you went to Luca, right?
No.
After all, you never went? After all, well, that restaurant's amazing, okay? If you go there, you can get the potato frite. Frite, yeah, my kids love it. It's like these fried potatoes and this amazing white sauce. Everything there's amazing. The pasta's great. But that's not the restaurant I'm reviewing today. The restaurant I'm reviewing today is his sister restaurant that he just opened a month or two ago. It's called The Eating House. And this guy, Giorgio, owns both of them. My wife is secretly in love with him because she went to a party for her book club, and the party hostess had Giorgio cooking privately for all 10 of these ladies who apparently never discuss books and just eat food. Anyway, this dude, he won Chopped, which I assume is a reality show about how some chef steals married women during cooking exhibitions at other people's houses. So my wife, of course, made me go to The Eating House. And I would highly, highly recommend the chicken, believe it or not, because chicken's chicken. Everyone says, you eat venison, you eat duck. Everyone says, oh, it just tastes like chicken. No matter what it is, it tastes like chicken. It tastes like chicken. This did not taste like chicken. They called it chicken, did not taste like chicken. Therefore, I recommend you eat it. And they had a real dirt cup. The real dirt cup was, it was amazing. It was basically, it looked like I was eating a potted plant, and it tasted slightly better than a potted plant. So I was pleasantly surprised. Now, I will add that at one point, Giorgio came out of the kitchen, and my wife said, "Excuse me for a moment. This is true. I don't make this stuff up. This is true." She says, "Excuse me for a moment." I look, and she's running up to Giorgio, the chef. I don't know what they talked about. I assume, are you married? Do you want children? I don't know what they talked about. But like after a minute, she comes back and sits down. And I said, "Oh, what's going on?" And she says, "Oh, I just saw Giorgio." She says, "He's going to come over and say hello in a minute." I said, yeah, sure. He's going to come over and say hello to a middle-aged woman. This guy's like 25 years old. He's one of the top chefs in the country. He's going to come say hello to you at our table in the middle of his busy dining service at a sold-out restaurant where you can't get reservations except for a month in advance. He's going to come over and talk to us. Okay. He never comes over. So I'm loving it, right? This is the best meal I've ever had now. The chicken tastes even better. I don't know what it tastes like. It didn't taste like chicken, but it tasted even better. Then the meal ends, and we order dessert. And before the dessert comes, this damn guy comes sauntering over to say hello to my wife at our table. It was the worst. He was there for a couple of minutes. She still's with me. She decided to stay with me. I guess the dirt cup wasn't good enough for her to leave with him, despite my annoying personality and being an a-hole. You YouTube people out there, she's still with me, everybody. Okay? So eat at the eating house. Just don't let your wife go anywhere near this guy named Giorgio, and you'll be fine. And that's my review. Was that a good review? It's all true.
I'm looking at the menu, and I mean, I'm not going to bore everybody,
It's
but
a
I
small
don't.
menu. It's a small menu, but it's good.
Yeah, I don't know how you can even find anything to eat on that menu.
It's
but,
really good.
all right, I'll take your word for it.
It is.
All right, that is going to do it for today for the Matt Shodell Comedy Hour.
That's all true. That's not comedy. That's what happened. That's my life. That's what I live in my life. That's what happened. I'm not making stuff up. If I made stuff up, it wouldn't even be funny. These are actual things that happen to me.
He thinks he's Seinfeld now. Okay,
No, I'm telling you, it's true.
Yeah, I know. Seinfeld was real things that happened in his life too.
No, they weren't. Seinfeld's an imaginary show based on what's his name, Larry David. By the way, I've been described as a Larry David who is not funny by Stephen Wagner. Thank you very much, Stephen Wagner. He hit it on the head right there.
Stephen Wagner, who refuses to even get up at 5 a.m. anymore to do this show. But anyway, we thank you so much for starting out your day with us. If you like the show for some reason, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube. If you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please come join our community of Canes fans. We hope we will make it good enough to where you will not be sorry. And your subscriptions allow us to do what we do every single day. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you once again, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.